Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear Review, and today we're looking at probably one of my favorite Casio watches, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Jim Kincaid over at his channel has talked about this watch for so long and has done so many different videos on this watch. It's the Casio GBDH2000. This watch is phenomenal. It's not perfect, but it is phenomenal. There are so many good things about this watch. And yes, it is a smartwatch. There are some smartwatch components to this watch, but at the same time, it really is a Casio through and through. It's a G-Shock, so it has the G-Shock look. It has all the qualities of a G-Shock, and it has some of the smartwatch pieces to it. Now, one of my interests to this watch really is the health side of it. I've never had a health-oriented watch other than maybe a step counter. I did a review on a step counter, a Casio, on the cheaper side of the wallet. But this one is a full-fledged health O2 sensor, heart rate sensor, steps, workout. You have all of the different kind of health things that go along with this kind of a watch. And Casio did such a good job with this part of the watch. And I really have to give them kudos on this design and everything about it. So we're going to go through the 5 things that we typically go through: size, fitment, finish, accuracy, legibility, and light, with some conclusions at the end. And I think you can probably find out that the recommendation for this watch is not going to be hard to get. But let's go through there's a few things I'm not totally sold on, minor things. At the same time, there are just so many things to really just look at this watch and like, this is a fantastic watch. So let's get started with the size. The size of this watch is 52.6 millimeters by 19.4 millimeters. This is a chunky watch. As a matter of fact, this watch is really chunky. So as far as wearing this on the wrist with maybe a tighter fitting cuff on a long sleeve shirt, this might be a little bit more difficult to pull off. Now, I'm sure you can loosen up the cuff and you can make it all work, but it really is a chunky watch. The chunky factor on this watch is a 2.7. I've got a picture here with this watch compared to a few other Casio G-Shock watches. We've got the GD350, we've got this GW9400, the 9500, and we also have this watch. So really get kind of a feel for what the chunky factor looks like compared to some of those other watches. And the Mudman, the 9500, is probably proportionally anyway, the slimmest looking one, relatively speaking. So when you look at these two watches, they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. And the GBDH2000 really is a chunky watch. Now let's look at the fitment of this watch. I love the fitment of this watch. It has the strap that I absolutely love. I had this strap on another smartwatch from Casio that has since actually bit the dust. It doesn't work anymore. And this is one of my fears about smartwatches, is that once they kind of wear out, I think I've had that watch for 6 years, it's done. It's over. All my other Casio watches never really experienced that kind of thing. So, but that one also had the same strap as this one. And wouldn't you know it, the strap on this watch has holes that are closer together so that you can get a more tailored fit to your wrist. I absolutely love it. It's a very pliable strap. You can see here that it moves around very easily. No issues. It's such a smooth wearing watch. I don't know why I say smooth, but it really feels smooth as far as just the strap itself, how it fits on the wrist. And then it also has at the very end a keeper wedge, and that keeper wedge really is to keep the keeper from sliding off the tag end of this end of the strap, and so that it doesn't come flopping out and catching on things. So that's another good nice piece to this. The one complaint that I have is I believe this is a plastic pin buckle. I've been bending it. I don't think this is metal. I don't think this is a coated metal at all. I think this is a plastic pin buckle. For the money, you really need to have a metal pin buckle on here, especially for a G-Shock smartwatch. It's an activity watch. Make sure that this watch has a metal pin buckle, but they don't have it. It's plastic as far as I can tell, and that's the way it goes. Now, it doesn't have that keeper ratcheting system that I'm so fond of with other watches, where you have those little notches on the inside here. And so therefore the keeper may slide around a little bit, although the material of the strap itself has some grippiness to it. So really it's not going to move around that much compared to other resin straps from Casio, which are much smoother and more likely for that keeper to slide around. A couple more things at the attachment point of the strap to the case. Very good articulation on this strap. This watch lays flat, which I absolutely love. I really don't like the Casio G-Shocks that have that permanent curved fixture to it, where you just can't straighten out the straps. And I get it, it's part of the shock resistance and all that stuff, but at the same time, I'm really not using the watches that hard, but I just really like a watch to lay flat on the desktop or at the nightstand so that I can just kind of look down at it. And yeah, if it has a curved strap, you can lay it on its side and it's pointed towards you while you're laying in bed. I get all that stuff. I've heard it before. I prefer the watch to lay flat. So this one does do that. It's great. It doesn't have the comfort wedges that you might see on like the GD350, but it does have them kind of built in. So it's not something that's a separate flap that kind of moves around. And you can see here, you have the orange kind of comfort wedges built into the strap itself. So great, very comfortable watch to wear. Tall on the wrist, it's chunky, but the feel of this is so comfortable. I love wearing this watch. So the finish of this watch is excellent. I'm going to use the word excellent more than once in this part of the review because it really is that good. I love the color combination. You have this orange and black combination. Burnt orange is one of my favorite colors anyway. But keep in mind, when you look at the side of the case, you can see that it has a metallic burnt orange finish to it. So it's not just kind of that bright orange that you might see like on the underside of the case where you have the comfort wedges. It's actually got a really cool, I think it's one of the best orange colors that I've seen, especially on a Casio that's out there. And just a little hint of color. It's not overwhelming. It's not this really bold color that you see in some other Casio watches. It just gives a little bit of attention there. And at the same time, you have some of that orange text around the display as well. So we're kind of getting into just kind of the coordination of the colors on here, which is fabulous. It has a mineral crystal. And after you look at the mineral crystal, which is nice and flat, and honestly, it has a little bit of reflectiveness to it that I'm just not real happy with, but it's a Casio. I love the variety of textures on this. Take a look at the top side of this watch. You have these ridges between the crystal guards, and take a close look at this. They kind of come down the side of the watch, and then look at the buttons. They have this almost fingerprint look on the sides of the buttons, which I think kind of goes towards that health theme of the watch. So you have these different textures. You also have that kind of matte black resin finish that's just so common among most G-Shock wearers out there, most G-Shock watches. You've got metal screws that kind of hold the case together. And then again, you just have just a really good overall look. It's nothing really bold, but it has just enough color to add some interest. Now the display is actually run by the app, so if you want to have different displays, I think there's 4 different displays that you can choose from, and some of the displays have your step counting and all that, and organize things just a little bit differently. I really like this display. I think it's really simple. I don't really need to know what my steps are during the day. I get plenty of steps anyway, so it's not really a high concern for me, but it is interesting that you can have different displays displayed on the display. Accuracy is typical quartz accuracy. Now, the one thing about this is that this is going to run off your phone. The Bluetooth connection is always going to keep it accurate, so you don't have to worry about plus or minus 15 seconds a month. It is a non-factor. Legibility and light, it's an MIP display, folks. The MIP display is the best negative display you could possibly get from a Casio watch. This is my first MIP display watch, and the rumors are true. It is outstanding. I love it. Now, when you hit the light is equally outstanding when it comes to legibility. And even in low light conditions, it lights up the dial so that you can see the digits of the numbers and everything that's on the screen very easily. In the middle of the night, it's awesome. You have two different modes you can choose from, 1.5 seconds long for duration or 5 seconds long, which I absolutely love the 5 seconds. I think 3 is a little bit too short. 1.5 is way too short for my tastes. Some people might like that. It also does burn the battery down. We're going to talk about battery here in just a minute, but I like the 5 second the 5 second duration. It also has the auto light feature, so that when you tilt your wrist in low light or no light conditions, the backlight's going to come on and you're going to know exactly what's on your watch. So what about the battery on this watch? It's not tough solar in the sense that it runs off of the solar energy and doesn't have to have any other input of energy. It is solar assist, which means that it can run longer, but it still needs to be plugged in periodically. And I've found with this watch about a month's time between charges, which is outstanding. My other Casio smartwatch was about 1.5 to 2 days. This is about a month. This is another reason why this kind of a smartwatch or this kind of a Casio health fitness smartwatch, I absolutely love it because of that. That was my biggest gripe with a smartwatch, is all the time that you spend plugging it in with a proprietary cord. And this has a proprietary cord. You can't get around it. But if you're doing it just once a month, not a big deal whatsoever. So again, solar assist, not tough solar, but I tell you what, it lasts a long, long time. And I wear this every night for the sleep evaluation that I get from my watch that goes to my phone. I can see how I'm doing with my sleep. So I'm not babying this when it comes to battery use at all. What are the gripes about this watch? Well, the text, when you turn on the notification portion of the smartwatch and you start seeing the text messages that start coming through, you can see that the text is just not big enough. It is just too small. It's too compact. It's really, they could have used a larger font size and maybe scrolled the messages across the screen and then turned it off. But for me, that's really a ding. I don't think that's really very, very useful. You can stack a bunch of text messages on top of each other, but if I wanted to see all of them stacked up, I'd look at my phone. But if you could just scroll, have an automatic scrolling go through, that to me would be a much better way of doing this. Now, it's a G-Shock. You get 200 meters of water resistance. You get all the shock resistance on here. It's just a great watch. And as far as toughness goes, I've worn this mowing. I've worn this sleeping, obviously. Wear it out working around the house, doing chores around the house. You know, some of my chores involve firewood and gathering firewood, splitting firewood, stacking firewood. I have no issues whatsoever wearing this watch. It is chunky. It does stand off the wrist a little bit higher than most of my other Casios. But at the same time, it has the crystal guards on here. It's a G-Shock. It's outstanding. Now, what are some of the modes that are in here? I'll go through these real quick. We have the heart rate mode, the heart rate monitor. So you can turn that on and look at your heart rate live and see what your heart rate is. Then we're going to go to the blood oxygen level. And they also have like a breathing technique that you can use to kind of increase your blood oxygen level, calm yourself down. You can also watch your heart rate drop because as your O2 goes up, your O2 saturation goes up, your heart doesn't need to work as much. It's like, hey, I've got plenty of oxygen circulating through your body, so it starts to slow down. Then you also have some cardio status. This is a long term. It starts to compare your workouts from one day to the next. And then you also have your life log, which is your exercise and your sleep all together. It's on the app. It's actually very easy to use. I really like it. The nightly recharge tells you how your sleep is going. And to me, that's one of the things I like to wear this watch every night when I go to bed. Then I get to have that feedback in the morning. How well did you sleep? What are things that are bothering you? What are some things that you can do better to get some better sleep? Sleep is one of the most important things you can do, especially REM sleep. If you're doing any kind of learning, any kind of studying, things like that, REM sleep is what you want because in REM sleep, your body reorganizes, your brain reorganizes that information into pieces and it helps you learn better. So that's why sleep and learning are so important and they go together. Moving on, we have the activity log, and then we also have an almanac, sunrise and sunset, moonrise and moonset. We also have the compass, or I shouldn't say moonrise and moonset. You have the stages of the moon. You have compass, barometer, altimeter, and you also have temperature, world time, timer, and stopwatch, along with, at the very end, notifications if you want them. Now, I didn't start off with notifications, and then I turned them on to see what it was like to wear a watch again with notifications always bugging me. Because I did have a Casio where I did have that. I knew when phone calls were coming in. I knew what text messages were coming in, emails. That was when I was a superintendent of a school district. I haven't been a superintendent in the school district for a while, so I wasn't all that interested in turning this on right away. But I was curious. I turned it on. It's still annoying. I turned it off. I don't like it. And matter of fact, I'm still getting some notifications that I'm getting emails on here. So I have to go back and figure out how to make sure I get that turned off. It might be a setting on my phone that's still sending something to my watch, or I may have something here on the Casio that I need to turn off. But really, I do like it for the phone notifications. If someone's calling me, I do have it vibrate on my wrist, but otherwise, I don't get any other notifications when it comes to emails. But for some reason, they're still popping up. So if you have an idea as to how to turn that off, Jim, if you're out there, how do I turn off the notifications for emails? I am so sick of seeing advertisements for emails on my watch. I don't want to see that anymore. I just want to see that I missed a phone call or a phone call is in progress. So the notification piece I think is interesting. I'm not into it really that much anymore. I'm turning that off. So yeah, if you're into that, this watch does have that. One more thing that I'm not really that thrilled about is the timer. The timer is a 60-minute timer. I wish it had a few hours, 12-hour timer, something like that, 24-hour timer, something I could run during the day. And of course, you can use the alarms to do that. If you need to have a timer that's several hours in advance, you can do that. But I just prefer to have a timer that's at least 12 hours in advance, so I could do something like that. So that's one of the things I wish they would have done differently. So yeah, that is a complaint about this watch. Overall score for this watch, 9.8 out of 10. The text messaging is just too small. The timer, you have the plastic pin buckle, just a few things that really kind of knock it off that perfect score, but it is right up there. 9.8, could it be a 9.9? Maybe. Some of these are kind of, not really that important, but at the same time, it's like, come on. Plastic pin buckle on a watch that's several $100s. Yeah, come on, Casio, you can do better than that. So I highly recommend this watch. Highly, highly recommend this watch. If you're interested in the smartwatch function of this watch, I think you'll really enjoy this watch. You also get all the features of a health benefit when it comes to the heart rate monitor, the O2 sensor, the saturation, all that stuff. Great watch for that. You have the exercise workout modes that you can do for lifting, biking, hiking, all that kind of stuff, running. Why run? Like if you're not running from a bear, there's no need to run. Just bike. Okay. All right. So anyway, I think this is a great watch. Highly recommend it. Great for getting into that health fitness mode. And yes, for me, it's great to see the sleep cycle, to see if I'm getting good, well-rested sleep during the night. So there you go. Put your comments down below. Check out my webpage, realidealgear.com, for all the used watches or reviewed watches that I put up for sale, because I just can't hang on to all of them. So there you go. My name is Tim. This has been another Real Ideal Gear review. We'll catch you guys next time.